All right, everybody, we are back with another amazing episode of Bigger and Louder Podcast. Again, as always, I'm Handsome Face Anthony.
And I'm Johnny D.
Oh, man, as we said, everyone, in the last episode, we've been kind of on hiatus and had a little bit of an absence just to do some personal things in our lives. And what felt like a week felt like a whole month of just not being able to talk to you fine people. But we are back at it as usual, talk about everything and anything that excites us and probably not you. So therefore, we're going to try and entertain you in some shape or form.
Amen to that, bro. And I want to start off with what we were talking about last time. No, it's not the Netflix show because we haven't hiatus long enough.
I think we're Netflix out. Totally. I agree.
But I want to know about this Pittsburgh trip, dude, because you go down there for a wedding. I guilted Anthony into bringing all this stuff. And then I ended up not being able to film during the draft. So Anthony went live on the streets. But tell me, what kicked this off? Like, what did you do? Like, what did you do for the draft? Tell me all about this shit.
Yeah, I want to also emphasize something that John said. Yeah, he did guilt me into bringing shit to Pittsburgh to this wedding, and not one time did he ever make the attempt to hop on a meeting with me in the hotel room. So, shame on you, John.
Once.
You didn't try, but shame on you. But I'll tell you what, you got to go past this one time. So yeah, so I was actually, again, I got extended family out in Pittsburgh through my father-in-law's family. He's one of 10 children, believe it or not. And usually it's like someone's getting married every other 6 months because there's just children within the children. It's just a huge clan out there. So we're out there quite frequently. So this, depending how you look at it, it's fortunate or unfortunate that the wedding coincided with the NFL draft here in 2024. So as John was kind of on hiatus to hop on a live stream for the draft, I took it upon myself to walk the mean streets of Pittsburgh, PA, to kind of get a sense of what the fans were all about. Sense of the culture, the characters, the whole 9 yards, just kind of walking in Steeler Nation. And
did you eat the Pittsburgh chili?
No. Actually, the biggest thing that's big down there is Permane Brothers pastrami sandwiches. So I think they actually can rival like a good Jewish sandwich if you're like pastrami and corned beef.
We have like Langers and Cantors out here, and I know like Cats in New York.
It literally can rival that because with this sandwich, like they don't cheap you out. They actually stuff the sandwich. There's a number of satellite locations. There's only one original location, but what's really cool is how they pay actually homage to like a lot of like athletes in that city. Like anywhere you go, it's like you can just see pictures of like Dan Marino, and you see, photos of all these like, athletes like Terry Bradshaw, Joey Porter, and all these, and other players in baseball and, whatever, even actors. Like you even see pictures of like Jeff Goldblum and pictures of.
Is he from Pittsburgh?
Yeah, he's from Pittsburgh, PA, man.
I loved it. I was really disappointed. Juliana always asks, Daddy, why did the Jeff Goldblum show get, the guy from Jurassic Park, why did the show get off Disney? Because he had this like extraordinary world with Jeff Goldblum where he would like go around and do a bunch of different shit, and they pulled it from Disney, man. Like, then you can't stream it. You can't.
Wait a minute. Anyway. Jeff Goldblum had his own talk show on Disney.
It wasn't a talk show. It was more of like he goes out and does crazy things. Like he went to like a visual effects house where they like make different props for movies. He does like monster making. I think he went to like an amusement park. Like, there's like different activities he was doing, but it's just like he's so eccentric that like the kids really liked him.
Yeah.
But yeah, but yeah, dude. The thing before we go too long down this yellow brick road, I want to know like, what did you think about the Giants picks? I liked the wide receiver pick. I know everyone's like, you gotta have a quarterback to throw to the receiver. I was like, look, they did make some moves in free agency with the offensive line. Yeah. So this whole like, Daniel Jones is going to be running for his life again. I think he's going to have more time. I really do like, that, the wide receiver pick. I think that they, made up for Saquon in the later rounds. They drafted a, running back. But, the thing that always disappoints me is like, I feel like the Giants haven't had a good linebacker ever. I like linebackers and more edge guys, but I don't know. What'd you think?
Well, yeah, I was kind of startled. So here's the thing. This was a big, high quarterback class. So like if you were looking for a quarterback, this was like one of your times to do so. With obviously, the Bears picking up Caleb Williams, and obviously like JJ being another, and Michael Penix going to the Falcons, which everyone was kind of like, what the fuck are you doing? I think because Kirk Cousins went to the Falcons, right? Isn't that like what they signed it on for? Is that right? Didn't Kirk Cousins
this guy's going to end up making like over $400 million in the NFL. Kirk Cousins
just sitting on the bench, just like, yeah. So,
well, I mean, maybe the Falcons got word that the Giants were going to, take a quarterback later, and then they moved up for Penix. They took Penix, and then they wanted their guy. But I mean, it makes some sense because like the guys that have the most success are the ones that are able to like sit down and kind of watch what happens. Like when they're thrust in, like who the fuck knows? Like I hope Caleb Williams turns out for the Bears, but like I don't know.
I mean, listen,
Bears have bad luck.
The Bear, well, yeah. I mean, like I'm just looking at, so just to your point, right? Like, I was reading an article earlier today. I'm bringing it up now. They're saying like the top out of all the teams, like winners and losers, they're saying from best to worst, like in terms of drafting, they said the Bears actually ended up at number 1 in terms of how they drafted this year. The fact they picked up Caleb Williams in the first, they had 2 first rounders. They picked up Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze. I never heard this from Washington. And then a 3rd rounder, they got an offensive tackle and then a punter in the 4th round, which is really wild. I've never seen a punter get drafted within 5 rounds. So that was kind of like startling there. And yeah, back to the whole Giants, right? Like, everyone's like, here's the thing. The Giants were picking 7, and there were other teams that needed a quarterback, right? There were several that already went before them. For them to jump ahead to get the one they wanted, you have to be in love, and I mean in love with a player to give up your draft capital to jump ahead to get that person. We saw it last year.
I agree. I would never have wanted them to do that. Yeah.
And when people, and if you're not a football nut, if you don't follow the sport, I'm going to be clear about this. Like in the draft, it's a big thing because you really only get like 7 rounds. And the way in which you're going to get like the best draft players is really in rounds 1 through 3. And for you to jump, let's say from pick 7 or pick 8 to get up further, you're gonna have to give up like a first rounder or a second rounder to do so. And again, it's collateral. Like they know that if you need that spot and the team's willing to indulge you, they're gonna take advantage of a situation. We saw this happen with other teams where they just wanted a player so badly, but they kind of screwed themselves over for the next 4 years because they basically tried putting all their eggs in one basket. So I give kudos to the Giants for not jumping that gun by just giving up a second rounder or a first rounder just to like get somebody that they didn't love. If anything, I'm seeing this as like a stepping stone, as I've been telling everybody who follows football, or at least the Giants in this way, is I'm giving this team an additional 3 more years to fix things around it. Even if they don't get a home run with their first quarterback, there's always next year in free agency or the draft next year. So I think I even sent you something, John, earlier about like a fan going on live with Joe Shane and Dable being like, listen, I don't understand. You guys keep Daniel Jones around. You hate him. He's so injury prone. He's got a neck injury, two neck injuries, an ACL. What the hell do you like him for? Like, why is he staying? And again, they're doing the logistical thing around him right now. I don't think they're building a team for him. I think what they're doing is they're building a team for the next 3 to 4 years. So that when the right person comes along, it's like you're in better standings than trying to just like get someone in there and like really fuck up your draft capital or your salary cap and further. I think they're thinking long term, not just
I heard an interesting rumor today. It's nothing more than a rumor on my side of things, but like we're not reporters, we're just bullshit artists. So I listen to the Dan Patrick show religiously. Shout out to DP, man. I think the guy's like seriously the best in the game. But he had a caller today that suggested that he thinks the Falcons made a move on Penix this year because they might have some type of consequence for tampering charges that the NFL is currently investigating them on, similar to those of the nature of the fucking Philadelphia Eagles, who are accused of tampering with the
Enlighten us.
formerly known as a New York Giant, Saquon Barkley.
Enlighten us. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, so like the guy was saying that, and I know this is public knowledge, where it's like, the NFL is investigating the Falcons and the Eagles for tampering. However, they said that because the investigation was not concluded before the 2024 draft, that any penalties that would result would be effective in like subsequent drafts, right? Next year, the year after,
25, 26. But what?
Yeah,
Let me ask you.
exactly.
Let me cut you off quickly. So, what do you mean by tampering? I guess like this is a new word to me. I've never heard the Eagles being in deep shit for this, let alone the Falcons. So, what was tampered? How? Why? And why should we care about this?
So, tampering in the NFL really has to do with the time at which NFL players or agents are allowed to be in discussions with a player, an organization, right? Like a team. And you can get, I think, like really harsh penalties. I think like the Miami Dolphins a couple years ago were docked a first round and fourth round pick for tampering with Tom Brady and the coach Sean Payton. Because remember, there was some speculation that Tom Brady was going to go to Miami, right? So they got in trouble for that. But effectively, you can't negotiate with a player who is on a contract before it expires or before the free agency period begins. And if there's proof that they were communicating, the teams can be, what I think is like severely punished.
They have to forfeit a couple of draft picks as a result of it.
Exactly. So it would make a lot of sense. And like, there's this viral video of the GM whose name is going to escape me, and Arthur Blank from the Falcons, the owner, like where it's like, he looks like he's like defending his job. And Arthur's like, what the fuck did I just pay this guy all this money for? And then I guarantee you that like the GM's like, now from like understanding this point of view, was like, listen, I don't know if we're even going to have a first round pick next year, dude. Like, we're going to take this quarterback, have him sit behind Kirk, and, it be an insurance policy.
Right. It's like we needed him, and, something. It's like we knew we fucked up, but, something we're willing to like. It's like, let's cross that bridge when we come to it. Like, we needed him, and we wanted him in our team versus some other people whispering in his ear prior, pre, post, etc., and then risking it all there. Right. Honestly, man, again, it comes down to draft capital. Like, if that's the case scenario, I think people are not in a position to give up the such draft capital, which I think, if you think about it, here's a good way to look at it. On the back end, let's assume that the Falcons did do such a thing, and they have to then forfeit their, let's say, a first rounder next year or a second rounder next year, whatever it may be. It's like, let's assume that actually does happen. Is it better to have them happen to them and like call it like done, like also wash, or give those picks to another team or competitor? Do you know what I mean? Like, they're thinking like,
yeah, what a good question.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's almost like a calculated risk. Like, if we could risk giving it to a team to get him, or we can just like know that the league's gonna come after us. We'll admit to it, but guess what? They don't get any of that. Like, we just lose it on our own, and it's like a wash. And that's what they're, again, it's almost like a page on a Bill Belichick a little bit, where he knows the rules, where it's like, I'm not giving to my competitors or my, conference, people. I'm going to like literally just like lose it and like call it a day. Like, we're going to lose it anyway, but it doesn't go to anybody else. Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
I think that, I mean, are you going to tell me I wouldn't disagree with like the Giants getting a pick from the Eagles for tampering? No, I think that'd be awesome.
It'd be awesome, but you're not going to get it. Yeah. Because you got to think about it this way. It's like, if you tamper, like there's like, there can't be a bias towards like which team gets that pick. It
would be the team that you tampered with. It would be the team that you did. It's not biased.
If something had,
like, for example, like it would be Vikings for Kirk Cousins. I really think it would be great if they came up with a harsher penalty, but already losing draft stock and draft picks is a harsh penalty. Yeah, that's a great point. That's such a unique way of deterring somebody from doing that.
Right. It's almost like, again, like, here's another way to look at it in the world of WWE. It's like, I'm gonna like get a disqualification. Again, I lose the match, but I don't lose the belt. The belt stays with me, if that makes sense. In the same fashion, the Falcons say, we're gonna lose a draft pick, but you're not getting it. Like, we lose it automatically, and that's done. Like, it's like we knew the rules, and
the pick just doesn't exist anymore.
But I'll tell you who actually the real, in my personal opinion, again, in the top like 10 teams, organizations, this website actually has the winners are. In my personal opinion, the number one people who should be considered the winners are Arizona, the Cardinals, for reasons why, because they got more draft space than most teams. So listen to this. They got two for this particular draft in 2024. The Arizona Cardinals had 2 first rounders. They had 1 second rounder. They've had 4 third rounders.
4 third round picks.
4 third rounders. they have two fifth rounders, and then they have a 6th and 7th, right? So that's
Yeah.
I mean, they knew
I'm with you.
that was from years prior. They got
They got
back.
some beasts, dude. They got some
Monsters.
beasts. Like
That was
obviously
them.
Marvin Harrison Jr., but like that dude Darius Robinson, I know is
Mhm.
great. And like for me, I was a big fan of Joe Alt,
Mm.
the Notre Dame lineman. So like to
Mhm.
me, like I think like again, the Giants have missed on a couple big time picks, but I definitely think Joe Alt would have been a good guy to get, but there was no way that
No.
he was falling down. I think he was
No.
the number 2 overall.
And you gotta remember, like the risk you take now will pay off later on, but it's like pick your poison. Do you like start giving away like draft capital to other teams and start sending yourself further late in the draft where like this year may not be our year to build correctly and it might be like a 2 or 3 year plan to sort of get that, or do you kind of stay the way you are and kind of play conservative? It's all a mathematical calculation that you have to understand like what is valuable to the team at this point. Like if like your team is going to be in the shitter for fucking 2 seasons, I would say if a team's interested in switching your spot to get something for a 2 or 3 first rounders in next coming years and so on and so forth, I would do that. But if you're a team that looks like you're balanced, regardless of who your favorite team is, like I would say, like don't take the risk. It's not worth it. The other teams that actually, I would go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
No, no. Well, I mean, I just like I think that's just like such a vague answer. It's like a pussy response. Like,
It isn't
different
though.
team. Yeah, it is. But like, I'm talking about the Giants. Like, I think that the Giants did, like, obviously, Saquon was like a exceptional type of player, but like, running backs are easy to come by. So I'm glad that they let that big contract go. But like, when we're talking about the Giants, like, do you think Malik Neighbors is like, the right pick? Did you like that they, picked a couple defenders, right? They got a safety, they got a cornerback, they, picked up another rusher, and they did draft a linebacker, I think, with their last pick out of UCLA. So, like, those are the type of things that, like, those were always my needs. Like, hey, be good on defense because it looks to me like the offense just needs more time to develop. And, like, look, I am with everybody now that I don't think Daniel Jones is right, but I was one of the last guys hanging on because and we talked about this. I think Daniel Jones has been sacked into oblivion. Like, I don't think he had like a great opportunity and does not have that athleticism, like at least with his arm, because he is dynamic with his legs, but with his arm, and his decision making is just not where it needs to be under that type of pressure. So it's like now all of a sudden so now all of a sudden you're putting in some guys like that I think can catch the ball in like short yardage situations. Like we've always kind of lacked a number one guy, like on the receiving. Like, yeah, we had ODB or OBJ, whatever the fuck you want to call his ass. He was fun to watch, but he was always hurt or being a prima donna. Victor Cruz was like
My man.
solid
My
guy.
man. I loved
But
him.
like
I had his
never like
jersey.
a number one receiver, right? Like always like a really like the top flight number 2.
He was always reliable, man. He was always reliable.
Right. Same thing. Like you can kind of go back and like the definition of number one receiver as you would like, look to on a, like the Patriots, like with like how many catches their guys are getting and how many yards, or, when you're looking at, the guys on the Chiefs or guys on the Niners now that are just racking up these yards. The Giants had like Hakeem Nicks, right? Plaxico Burress, the legendary David Tyree, right? These guys were all, staples. Amani Toomer for that matter. Like
that was a whole
staples of
different
the
team,
Giants
though,
offense. Well, I'm just kind of rattling off because like nowadays, like I think like the Hyatt guy, Jalen Hyatt. I think like he is fun to watch, dude. That guy's explosive.
He's got a lot of
What's gonna
talent.
happen?
Yeah. Go ahead.
But like, what's gonna happen there now, right? Like, are they gonna be able to give that like 4 or 5 seconds to make the throw that's 15 or 20 yards downfield, not behind the line of scrimmage or at the line of scrimmage on some like dinker green? Because like that's what I think the Giants do. They run, do a little screen, and then it's up 3rd and 8. Yeah, 3rd and 8. We're gonna Do a little screen pass, do a little failed, think to the fucking tight end, and then we're punting. So I think they need to develop these guys, stick with them, have the young receiving core. If Daniel Jones really can't make it, so be it.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. We said in some of our early episodes, and this is again for football talk and anyone who follows football religiously, in this case, the Giants, and just wants to shun the Giants right now, which you have every right to, just being the horrific franchise they've been in recent years. And that's not an argument, that's a fact. But the thing with these players is a lot of them are underutilized. They haven't really been used in the way in which they're actually talented to do so. Like, let's go back to Kadarius Toney. That guy was the next human joystick. Now, someone said, he's either getting injured too much or he's not understanding the plays very well and
can't catch the ball. Yeah, there's a couple.
But it's funny when he goes over to the Chiefs, how quickly he does a 180. And the thing
he gets hurt and drops balls for them too. What are you talking about?
Okay, I'm just saying, he
gets more balls whizzed at him. He's just getting more balls thrown in his direction.
Right. I'm saying, when he won the Super Bowl for the Chiefs against the Eagles that year, he was the reason they won the game. Literally, he was the guy who is how they actually won the game. But when you guys have you have Jalen Highland on the team, who that guy is literally a north runner. If you told that kid just run as fast as you can from the 30-yard line to the 20-yard line, he would probably outspeed you. But I think that with the Giants, in the terms of their passing plays and their passing style currently, is that everything's a check down because of just being super conservative. I've said before that Daniel Jones, you ask him to run 100 up and downs, go run me 4 miles, he'll do it. He does not have the best football IQ that other quarterbacks have. Look at Sam. Let's compare him to Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford was a dude who was killing it, but the guy was fucking injury prone. Every 2 fucking seconds, the guy was on the fucking floor hurt. He was phenomenal, but if he didn't get hit by injury, that's what we're trying to compare here is you don't need to be the dude. There's only one guy I can really say who can actually do both of that, and that's Josh Allen. Josh Allen's someone who can literally fucking hurdle guys, put his fucking head down.
He's a beast, man. He's huge.
But you cannot compare that. You can make that as the benchmark for quarterbacks that want to be running gun and kind of run forward and take a hit or
right. You can't use the exception as the rule. And I think that's what everybody does. Everyone's he's the next Patrick Mahomes with Caleb Williams. I'm no, he's not. He's going to be like Caleb Williams, and he'll have his own spin on things. Now, look, he is stepping into a much better situation than some of the past picks, right? Better than Fields and better than Trubisky. But you're right. People try to recreate these,
that's what they're doing.
Natural to want to try to recreate the wheel.
The Giants did, yeah, man.
And Daniel Jones, to me, man, he could have been the guy if we just left the bun in the oven a little bit too long and it got crispy. It was bacon, and then they should have taken it out and gotten it the help it needs and given it the love, but they didn't. They just left it in the oven and now it's burned to a crisp.
I've said it before, man.
Who knows what we're gonna do?
Listen, I said it a million times, and I'll say it a million times again. The worst thing the Giants could have done 2 seasons ago was make the playoffs. That was the worst thing that could have happened to them because it gave the organization a false positive. That being said, last season, he then goes and seeks representation to go out and get money that he desperately wanted. Otherwise, he was going to test the free agent market. He basically forced the Giants' hand into saying,
I disagree. Shit. We talked about this. I disagree with you. I don't believe that. I don't believe it. I don't think that they're that gullible in the Giants front office to have just been oh yeah, no big deal. He won a playoff game. He got a new agent. Let's sign him up for $40 million a year. No, I don't know what the thinking was. I wish we had some connection.
The thinking was this: is that the new representation was an agency that got players the money that they think that they were worth. So he said to the Giants, "Listen, I'm worth all this money." The Giants are oh shit, our salary cap's still fucked. We cannot. He just came off the best season of his career. Things are looking on the up and up. We cannot risk the team starting with another slack quarterback in free agency to learn this offense if he's developing in this offense that everyone was saying that was the problem. He was in and out of different schemes constantly. He was with too many different coaches, and that's why he never really became anything good. And when he won that playoff game to the present, he's like, I want my money. And they're like, shit, we can't afford to lose this guy. So what do? It's either you pay him the money or you pay Barkley the money. And it's like they took the calculated risk. They paid him his money. He sucked last year, right? And obviously we all know it. I believe I have to look it up. I think there's some clauses in there that actually, I don't think they own the entire money. I think he has to hit certain milestones to get the full amount. But I said it before, they now have to play conservative until they fixed out the quarterback situation. So again, they're getting maybe some studs in there, some playmakers. And even if I were even asked about the first rounder with the guy with Neighbors, again, I've never been the dude that's been like, put all your eggs into like one position player to redefine your team. Like with the 90 Giants, it was fucking LT. He was like the whole defense. Like that was a purely defensive fucking team. Like the Giants were back then. If you look at when back in 1998, 99, like Randy Moss with the Vikings, like that was a purely offensive team. Like that was like their dude. If you go back to even like Barry Sanders, like he was the running back for, like there's always like that one skill player that seems to define the organization that you can get behind that person, and it's good for ticket sales and jersey sales and things like that. But I've never been the dude that been like, okay, like let's just get that one guy that's going to transform either the offense or the defense, and we're going to put all of our eggs behind that person. And we're going to like, that's our go-to. First down, that's the person. Third down, every time you're in a situation, that's like, look what Minnesota
that's
did
not the
Jefferson.
recipe for success, though, because you're right, because it's not the recipe for success. Like,
I agree.
Look at like one of my, I hate to even admit this, but like one of the teams I like to watch is like the Niners, because the Niners have a weapon in every position,
multiple weapons. They're like
right. That's what I'm saying, in every position. So like, you're not just talking about Debo, you're talking about Ayuk, who actually, who knows? Maybe the
Giants were considering landing him.
Yeah, like I know he's seeking trade, but Ayuk. Then you got Kittle. Then you got McCaffrey. Their offensive line is great, right? Then on the you have the the defensive side of the ball, and like it just starts up front with Bosa, but then they've got like the best linebacking core in the league, right? So like at that point, you've got to build a team. And I always loved what like Pete Carroll did with the Seahawks. I hated the Seahawks when they had Sean Alexander.
I still hate them. I still hate them.
I can't stand them, but like I hated Sean Alexander. So like now I've come around. One of my good buddies, he's a Seahawks fan. So like, I don't hate on him anymore. But like I did love what they did. And it is the model with a Legion of Boom and of course, this is like, striking gold. You got to pay veteran defenders, because I think defense does win championships.
Sure does.
And having a veteran defense that either has been to the playoffs or has at least like seen it all, and then being able to rely on like, some like solid offensive production, and having a guy like on a rookie contract like they did in Russell Wilson, where if you're not paying like your quarterback, because your quarterback now is going to be making over $40-50 million a year. If you don't have that huge sink in your cap, then you can go out and you can get the other dudes that are going to win you Super Bowls. And it's like, that's why dudes like Mahomes and Brady restructure their contracts, because they know in order to not to be great individually, but to be as a great team, like you've got to make that sacrifice financially. And like, again, when you're winning fucking Super Bowls, you're getting it on the back end with your endorsements. So it's not like, they're giving up money. It's like, no, they're getting their money from being at Sports Illustrated ads and wearing their championship ring everywhere. Right. And, that to me is what's really selling.
So when you bring up the fucking 49ers, and this goes back to good management, like I was and still am a huge fan of Adam Peters. Like when the Giants were restructuring their back office and they were requesting interviews with every organization's top guys, Adam Peters was actually one of the first guys I wanted to interview, plus with like Joe Shane and, Dable, who came from the Buffalo organization. But Adam Peters is the reason why that organization is the way it is, with all the stacked players and such. He knew how to draft correctly and to trade correctly. And now the fucking Commanders actually have him, and they had a fucking stellar draft this year. They had multiple picks in the second and the third round. They are going to do well. If not this year, definitely next year. They're going to be a fucking force.
They've been getting better every year. And I guess I say the only team I'm not afraid of in the NFC is the fucking Cowboys, because they haven't done shit. They signed Ezekiel Elliott again, I saw.
Oh my God. He wants
that goes to show you, man.
Cowboy.
Yeah, but no, that's it, man. And, I'm definitely looking forward. Like, obviously training camp is going to be here soon for football. And, I talked to you about the NBA playoffs, but did you haven't watched any basketball, I'm sure.
I haven't caught up with it. I just know the Knicks are in it and fans are going absolutely ape shit.
Right now. Man. Well, I'll tell you what, like I have like 3 tiers. I can watch any football game, any NFL game. I can watch only the World Series for baseball, and I can watch everything from the playoffs on with the NBA, because I can't watch like regular season NBA. It's just like too many games. Same thing with the MLB. And then baseball is like still too slow for me in the playoffs. So like I'll watch playoff basketball, and I will say that the Knicks, I'm waiting, like, and I say this with bated breath because I know all our friends are, Knicks fans, for the collapse. I'm waiting for the collapse. But
the bubble was it the
yeah?
When you say the collapse,
you mean like burst? I'm waiting for the bubble to burst, because like it's always been something with the Knicks, and like I do think like it would be awesome to see them have some success, man. Like I would love to see like Knicks Jazz. Give me Knicks Jazz, dude.
Listen, I mean, this is, if anything, like if you go back to like the 90s, I think I was reading an article a couple of days ago. They said like top teams in the 90s had never won a championship. They put the Knicks in there, like top, like number 1 or 2.
Stockton.
I mean, they could, they Stockton,
obviously.
Ewing, Oakley. I mean, they had like Charlie Ward. I mean, and the problem was like they couldn't get past the Bulls. That was the only team they had to get past. Like,
and the Rockets, right? There weren't the Rockets.
No, the Pacers. It was always the Pacers, the Bulls.
Sorry, yeah.
In the Eastern State, and I forgot who the other 4th team was, but it was always the Knicks, Bulls, Pacers, and I forgot the other 4
Jazz.
Teams. The Jazz on the West Coast.
Oh, well done.
We're talking East Coast, and right, it was like those 4 teams, whatever the 4th team was, with the Knicks.
Well, weren't the Pistons good?
They were early 90s, and then the Bulls became like the dudes that like were a force to be reckoned with. I think it was this. No, it was the Heat. Miami was when they had like Alonzo Mourning and all those dudes down there with like Anthony Hardaway and all those. Anyway, don't ask me how I know this shit. But anyway, as a football dude. But no, it was always the Knicks, and the Knicks could never get past the Bulls. Those were the Jordan years. Now maybe it just seems like, okay, like the waves have like recycled themselves. Now there is no Michael Jordan anymore. And now maybe they could be considered like the best team in the East right now if they can get through the last couple of rounds. Too bad they don't have me on the team. I would drop like 100 fucking points. I would beat Will Chamberlain's fucking record. They should have drafted me.
I hold the record for like our St. Mary's CYO traveling team, actually.
How many fouls you
out?
get?
Yeah, and fouling out within like a minute and 30 seconds of one game, dude. But,
so I got one better for you, man. I was actually ejected from a CYO basketball game, not for a flagrant foul, but for the first 30 seconds of the game. I do a somersault in the middle of the court, and the referee ejects me from the game. And every player and spectator
in the middle of the court.
I just felt like doing it. It was just like, why not? And every player, every coach, every spectator could not stop laughing. They've never
Didn't you play varsity, or were you only junior varsity?
I only played JV, but I was trying to be the dude to be like a dual sports dude, and I just wasn't feeling basketball anymore because honestly, man, like basketball
wasn't feeling you anymore.
That too, but like, you know what it was, man? Honestly, it's like basketball is a fun sport to play if you can just play with your pals. It's a good exercise, but I was coming into a point where it was too much of finesse. Like, you couldn't touch someone, you couldn't bump. It was foul this, foul that.
I hate the rules of basketball, dude.
It's ridiculous. I mean, they've been evolving to be even worse. Like now, like traveling isn't traveling anymore. Yeah, it's like worse than soccer. I couldn't take it anymore. Like, and again, like I always go back to you know, who are the biggest crybabies? Is it like basketball players or baseball players? Because like they want to be athletic, they want to be, you know, competitive, but like you can't physically hit the person that you're playing. And we see what happens in these games, like baseball players, pitchers throw at the batter when they don't like the person's face or whatever it may be, like a crybaby. In basketball,
like
they'll
LeBron
do like,
James, dude, is
pretty much, yeah.
all
Him
the time. What is
or
going on?
yeah, Draymond Green, who literally should have been like, should have been arrested several times for all the flagrant fouls he's doing.
I know,
it's
dude.
Like,
if he ever, I don't care how big he is, man. If the guy kicks me in the balls, like I'm gonna bite his ankles. So, anyway, man. All right, brothers. We love you guys. We love our fans. This is bigger and louder. We'll get back to you guys real soon.